feeling stuck lately? Like life's passing you by? Get to know M.A.Y.A.
Acronym My Ambition, Your Ambition.
Reconnect with your dreams, your goals, your ambitions. Find your motivation and start to live the life you desire. Explore the M.A.Y.A. My Ambition, Your Ambition podcast at M.A.Y.A.com.
Namaste, everyone. Welcome to episode 16 of M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition. I've been gone for a while, 4 weeks away. You know what I always say, that if I cannot be mentally or emotionally present in my podcast, I will not record. And I definitely had something that took me off my square that required me to really kind of refocus myself. And actually, for me, the grieving process was interesting. And so I took that time. And I'm always looking forward in the future episodes to kind of share those things with me. And hopefully it can help someone else through a difficult time. So with that being said, as you know, I always say that I like to feel I'm a forward-thinking podcast, that we talk about things from a very, thought-provoking and, kind of open-minded perspective. So as I always say, now mind you, it's a Thursday at 2:00, so you might be at work, or maybe you're listening to this a bit later. It's okay either way. But hopefully you can find that spot where it can be you and me time for the next hour. Whether you're sitting at your desk, maybe, you're at home sitting on your couch, because many people are working from home. Find that place where you can just kind of dial into you and me time. Remember, you can always find former episodes of M.A.Y.A at M.A.Y.A.com. Remember, I say you work through these episodes at your pace. So there's 15. So if you're still back on episode 10, because that's the one for you where you have to do the work, then it's okay to be in episode 10. But you can always find all episodes of M.A.Y.A at M.A.Y.A.com. Of course, you can find me at iTunes, Google, now on Amazon Audible, iHeartRadio podcast, so many different ways to listen. Of course, I'm going to be biased and say go to M.A.Y.A.com. Of course, make sure you always follow me as well. That's a key thing. I like when people do get social with me. You can find me at M.A.Y.A.Kai _ on Twitter as well as Instagram, for those people that's maybe your preferred way. Or you can find me on Facebook. You're probably here right now. M.A.Y.A Kai Presents is how you can tie to the show. But remember, subscribe to my YouTube page as well, because there's so many different ways that people are watching and listening, and I appreciate it all. So, episode 16, the key to unlocking the best version of yourself, prioritizing yourself, hence core values. But before we jump into that, I am adding a new kind of segment or element to the show. For all of you who listen, I torture you when I sing. I do hold a note, so it's not the worst thing you ever heard, but obviously I'm not getting any recording contracts for my singing. With that being said, I love music, but the idea of just playing songs doesn't quite do it. Well, I got blessed that someone brought what I feel is now my musical muse, and hopefully she will become your musical muse as well, because now I can incorporate music into my show that's authentic and real, and not just someone else's. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Miriam McQueen.
Hi.
Hello, Miriam. You have no idea how excited I am about this, because I am a very musically driven person. For me, Music helps me to work through my moods. The right song gets me through my workout. It's just always been a part of my life. So though I can't play an instrument, but though I can hold a note, to be able to bring you into the show is such a blessing. And now you're my musical muse, and I'm hoping to share it with the rest of the M.A.Y.A crew, so to speak. So without further ado, tell my listening audience, who is Miriam McQueen? First of all, you have a fly name, Miriam McQueen. So who's Miriam McQueen?
That's a real name too. I didn't pick it. That is my God-given name.
It already sounds famous, FYI, just to let you know.
Let's hope, right? Here's to hoping. No, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. But a little bit about me. My name is Miriam McQueen. I live in Colorado. I am a singer-songwriter. I'm 22 years old, and I have been doing music since I could talk, at least just mumbling different sounds and listening to songs that my mom and dad would play at home, and then trying to sing along, and then eventually just making my own music. And that's how I express myself. And that's a way that I can reach out to other people and tell them that you're not alone if you're feeling this way, if you're angry or you're sad or you're happy or you're just whatever feeling you're having. I have a song about it. I bet you anything. So that's, yeah.
And see, this is why I'm so excited about having this new segment in the show, because after I talk someone's ear off, and people do get to integrate into the show, and when they post their comments in the comment section, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook, I can then integrate their comments into the show. But then I'm like, I get to like kind of put you in that tranquil space, because once you hear Miriam sing, you're going to end the show feeling relaxed and focused, and really maybe even process what I shared a little bit more. So I'm excited to have you as part of the show. You're going to come in at the end and perform something kind of wraps around the theme of the show, which is the key to unlocking the best version of yourself, prioritizing yourself, core values. All righty. Well, I'm going to let you sit back, relax. I always tell people buckle up for safety. Every now and then it can get a little bumpy, but I try to be nice and handle everyone with kid gloves. And we'll see you at the back end of the show.
All right. Thank you, Maya.
All righty, everybody, that is Miriam McQueen, who is about to become my musical muse, and I could not, be more excited about that. Okay, so let's jump into episode 16. And like I said, I've had a hiatus, like 4 weeks, because I had to mentally and emotionally retool myself. And I came out of it with this on my mind, because 2020 has been hindsight and challenging for people for a lot of reasons. But for me, the ball of challenge kind of started, honestly, towards the end of 2019. And I kind of realized some of the struggles and things I was having was because I was not prioritizing myself. And I clearly, in some situations, had gotten away from the core of who I was as a person. Well, it's interesting how a lot of people, truth be told, are not even connected with who they are. So this is what this episode is all about. So before we jump into it, let's get some real talk, okay? I call it real talk time, RTT. Here's one thing that many people are guilty of. I'm going to focus on somebody else because it takes the spotlight off me, and they think it's going to somehow give them some form of fulfillment. But truth be told, before you can lead, save, or salvage someone else's life, you have to learn who it is you are and or want to be, which means gaining insight, having vision, and then live that daily. That's real talk. And I'll be honest, it's interesting because when you talk about prioritizing something, it's about living your life actively through that lens of the things that matter with a vision that you've created for yourself. So it's important to know where you're headed so that you can distinguish between activities, people, places, and things that are simple distractions for you versus those activities, people, places, or things that move you towards your vision and your goal. So often people get taken off their square because they allow other people to take them in that direction. Before we jump into this, I put up this meme at the beginning of the show. And I want to put it up again because I think you need to really tie into this. Always be the first-rate version of yourself and not a second-rate version of someone else, said Judy Garland. There's no place like home. And no place like home means there's no place like being the autonomous you. Read that again. Be happy and content. I'm going to add some words into it. With being the first-rate version of yourself and not a second-rate version of someone else. And we live in a world where we're often pushed to be someone else. Remember what I said the last couple episodes? I'm going to say it every single episode. I want you to take the idea of fake it till you make it and throw it out the window. Because when you fake it till you make it, that's the first lie you tell to yourself. Be in your position. Own who you are. Be present in your moment. And if you're not happy with who you are, okay, accept that and work to getting to being the person that you want to be, opposed to emulating something that you're not. And I think it's really a disservice when we sell this to young people, like, hey, if you're not wealthy, act like you are. Well, no, be who you are and be comfortable with it. Because the minute you start being something you're not, you get real uncomfortable with yourself. So I always revisit the fake it till you make it thing because I want to dispel that saying because I think it's a really poor thing to tell people overall. Okay, here's something I want you to kind of put in the back of your head. Right now, people are consumed with reaction. This is often, reaction dominates human behavior, opposed to being proactive and responding to what the times call for. The reason I want to get people closer to who they are at their core values, because you'll be less likely to be consumed with reacting and more in tune with responding in a way that reflects who you are as a person. So as I say every single show, get your toolbox, take it out, and put it on the table. Because you know what you have to take out every single show. What are you taking out every single show? Your emotional intelligence. Remember, your EI refers to your ability to perceive, control, and evaluate your emotions. So understanding this is eliciting a certain emotion for me, then the question turns into, why is it eliciting a certain emotion for me? And here's the thing, what do I do with the emotion that it elicits? Do I just react? Or do I take the time to process it and respond in the way that I want to properly? So remember, we always put our EI on the table every single time, because I may say something that doesn't resonate with you. I mean, it's not that I'm the authority, only for an hour, being that I am the mental health professional, and we're working towards mental wellness. I've got nothing to do with mental illness. I tell people illness is indicative there's something wrong. Wellness means there may be things I'm working on and need improvement, but I'm moving towards a better version of myself, getting healthier mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and even financially. Those are all things that we tackle in the show. All right, so let's move beyond the toolbox, because now you've got your EI on the table. And let's dissect that real talk just a little bit more, specifically about having vision. Without vision, you lack focus, because vision is created when you gain insight and clarity into your situation. Think about that for a while, because we often throw these words around a lot. We do. We really do. Like, oh, I have goals, but what is the framework for your goals? Have you really thought them through properly? And do they align with who you really are, or are you emulating what you think you should be doing? I always challenge people on that. Is your goals and dreams, are they autonomous to you, what you want, or are you living through someone else's lens? It took me a while to realize that I could just be me, and I didn't have to be perfect. I didn't have to be overly successful, because as much as I love my mother to death, she made me feel I was special. And I came to realize, well, yeah, I was special to her, but kind of not special to the rest of the world, so to speak. And that's not a negative thing. But I would always do things with the intention of, well, I can't be a failure, or I can't make a mistake. And do you know how much angst that gave me, feeling that I couldn't make a mistake, or that if I was a failure, like, what would people think of me? And I can't embarrass my mother. And I can't tell you how I suffered in silence for a long time, because I was so afraid to be me, which, by the way, when I kind of got familiar with Maya, I kind of liked her. And I was okay with my imperfections, so to speak. But that was a journey. And that's what Maya, my ambition, your ambition, is all about. So when we dissect that real talk, that vision piece, don't take it lightly, because it's really important to have vision, because it's a thing that gives you framework. If you take nothing else away from this episode, I want you to keep this in perspective. I'm laughing right now because I'm having a cat moment, because right now my cats are messing around with my feet. I was telling Miriam early on, this show is very authentic. So when things happen around me, I'm waiting for a cat to jump up in the back, do something weird. So now they're playing with my feet. So if I start smiling, there's nothing weird going on, just to let you know. So with that being said, takeaways from the show. Your life, hence your decision-making and actions, will make many things permissible when you lack vision. Because with that is who you are trying to achieve or pursue. So that first part is the key part that's important. Your life, which means how you think about things and the actions you take based on your decisions, will make many things permissible, means you allow many people to be in your lives that maybe do not belong there. You may do things that do not align with who you are, because you lack the vision of what it is that you want to achieve or pursue. So this is where the vision piece comes in, because have you never had the aha moment, like, I can't believe, many people are in relationships like this, like, I can't believe I stuck around because I honestly thought I couldn't do better. I allowed this to happen to me because at the core, I feel I'm generous, I'm kind, I'm giving. Those are core values. I believe in helping people. But it didn't mean that I should become someone's human punching bag, because my core values are aligned with being good to people. Read it again. Your life, hence your decision-making, your actions, will make things permissible, meaning things will be allowed to happen, good or bad, when you lack vision and you're not connected to your core values. So if you take nothing else away from me, like running my mouth and talking, hopefully you take that away. All right, we proceed along. Like I said, we get a little heavy every now and then. And like I said, if you're still working through some different episodes, I'm okay with that. I enjoy when people tune in, listen, and share their comments. It's all good. You can always share your comments if you're on Facebook or YouTube, there's a comment section, and you put comments in, I get to then share them on the screen. So you can share them that way as well. Remember, you can always find former podcasts of Maya at mayakai.com. Remember, there's always a podcast resource section as well. So anything I think is pertinent or can help you to continue working on what the episode was discussing, I may have an additional resource. There's one for today's episode as well, to kind of help you explore some additional things and to dig a little deeper into some things. All right. So let's talk about core values. Because core values are it's that roadmap that helps you to, direct and kind of follow that path to a meaningful life, meaning finding your passion and purpose. I like to say it's like a compass. It kind of directs you. So the thing about being aligned with your core values are this. You can say, right now, I'm moving way too off to the left with what I know I should be doing. I'm doing something right now that this doesn't align with me. It doesn't make me feel good. Or you may say, I've stepped over to the right, and even though maybe this is not part of my core values, it doesn't feel bad, and I feel like I'm doing something good. So core values become your roadmap or compass to help you to direct yourself towards that meaningful life you want, that passion and that purpose, which ultimately is about getting to the best version of yourself. So when you know what your values are and what you believe in, outside influences like social media, status quo, your social environment, they won't take you off your square because you legitimately are the architect of who you're going to be, your true self. But so many people are slaves to the idea of this is what the status quo says is appropriate. Well, the question is appropriate for who? This is what's happening on social media. In my old age, I have a whole lot of angst when I watch young girls fall into this I have to be provocative and nasty because shock value. I'm gonna tell you something. I'm never gonna be a Cardi B fan. Megan Thee Stallion has grown on me a little bit because I realize they feel like they're being powerful and I can do what men do. Well, women, let's just own something. We're the superior ones in the species. So why in God's name do we feel the need to emulate what they do? We are something different in our own right, the way that the universe created us. So hence, we don't have to emulate anything that men do. We should be comfortable in our own vein. And to be honest, often when women feel the need to be this way is when they kind of move away from, in essence, who they are. So I'm not going to say that, look, being a provocateur these days makes money. Hence, I will never make money if I got to do all that because those words could never come out my mouth. I'm not going to lie. But we have a whole generation of people that they think this is a way to identify. I like when I meet young people who have their own minds and they're blazing their own path because they don't feel like I have to emulate what someone else is doing in order to be myself. Now, does this mean that you can't enjoy what they do and maybe get a laugh out of it or even find entertainment? Absolutely. But it doesn't mean that you have to try to ingrain it in the essence of who you are. So again, when you know what your core values are and your belief systems are, outside influences won't take you so far off your square. So it's the person that when something is wrong is okay with standing up and saying, this is wrong. In fact, we might be moving towards that as a country when we say, I'm sorry, these are not acceptable values that the current president is trying to insert into our society. This is not right. Now, it doesn't mean that people can't be wealthy. It doesn't mean that people can't be outspoken. But why is there a need to feel the need to subjugate someone else to make yourself feel better? Doesn't mean, I tell people all the time, I'm not pro or anti-Trump. He's not my cup of tea. But I have enough vision if he says something that makes sense. Here's what he says that makes sense. Real talk. I have no problem with any president saying, I'm going to take the time and the energy to focus on this country. Because I'll be honest, we worry about so many other countries and what they're doing. We have increase of people living in poverty. We have addiction issues. We have people that are living on the streets. I just had a client that I worked with that was 17 in his entire life. He has never actually had a real home. They have lived in cars or in motels. I don't think that any child should ever have that experience because there's more than enough wealth and resources within one of the most powerful countries, if not the most powerful country in the known universe, for that to even happen. So when someone says, make America great, the again part is a part that kind of throws some of us off our squares because it hasn't been great for everybody. It hasn't been great for women of color. It hasn't been great for necessarily women. It hasn't been great for a lot of people here. So it's make America great for everyone. So I could see some vision, but then he went off his square, and that's where I can't align. So knowing my values, I couldn't align with just one part of his conversation, which some people have. Some people, I've heard people say, I'm struggling with the idea that many people, I can't remember what the number somebody told me, how many people voted for Trump. They said, I can't believe that many people would vote for that kind of person. And I said, that's actually the part that kind of I find disturbing. You will disregard the part of his rhetoric that is absolutely detracting And to me, not even humane, because you like how he handled China. To me, that's a reflection of something about your character if you want to know the truth. But I just chose to look at people from a distance and say, that's not my issue, it's theirs. Okay, so let's jump into, what does it mean to be true to yourself? If you don't understand your values and belief systems, you may violate them, meaning you violate you, without even realizing. And this can lead to feelings of guilt and shame without even knowing it, or being in negative relationships, being in abusive relationships with family, friends, just not being healthy. You become toxic to you because you haven't put in your mind what is acceptable and not acceptable, and that comes from your core values. And it's important that you begin to understand those things. It's super important to understand those things. With everything, there's always research, and this is interesting. So research confirms that when people have clear set of core values, some different things tend to happen. Now I'm going to tell you, most of these I said, okay. And a few I was like, I might be loose on that. So it said that when people have at least a clear set of core values, that they often make big life decisions around passion and purpose. So career choices, deciding to be married, things of that nature. Not just be married for the sake of being married or having companionship, but they really looked into the person they want to be with. They see something that mirrors that's positive. Also, people that have core values, they say, are less likely to engage in, what we call, negative thinking, stinking thinking, especially when they're challenged. So right now, most people who have core values are the people who are faring better through the pandemic than people who do not. Because at the core of this, they know this too shall pass. My core value is being resilient. I believe in working hard. I don't believe in giving up. I believe in I will always push forward. So that's one of the things I think is key. It also said that people can tolerate pain more easily, specifically physical pain. I guess I don't know how I feel about that, because if I shut my hand on the door, I'm going to feel it and not be happy about it. So I don't know that I can say I think that you can tolerate physical pain. I think you can deal with challenge better. But the physical pain piece, like I said, I don't know about that. It also says that people who have a clear set of core values have greater self-discipline and self-motivation. I agree with that, because you know where you're going, you figured out how to get there. And even though you may hit a stumbling block or an obstacle, it doesn't fully take you off your square. So that part to me makes perfect sense. And lastly, research says that people who know their core values tend to have better social connections and are stronger social people. I believe that. Because knowing your core values means you're connected to yourself. And when you are connected with yourself, that means you can be connected with others. If you're struggling to figure who you are and you're trying to fake it till you make it or fit in, you're not going to be socially connect very well. But when you know who you are and you know what's acceptable, what you expect of yourself and others, you can go forth into the world with more confidence with yourself. Even if you make a mistake or fail at something, you don't beat yourself up for it, because you realize mistake is part of the human process. It's part of development and maturation. So that's what research says. I'd be curious. Do you agree? Disagree? I think some of them are all pretty spot on, except for the physical pain piece. Nobody wants to be in pain, but allegedly you can endure it better if you have core values. So when we move past that, let's think more about specifically what core values are. So here's what's interesting, because people are like, well, I don't even know what constitutes a core value. So I'm gonna give you like a kind of a general list, and some of the things on the list might kind of throw you for a loop. So things like core values. Now, most people would think family would be one, loyalty, but most people would be like intelligence, that would be on there, excellence, being innovative, prosperity, change, compassion. I could see that being a core balance, honesty, but adventure, really? Teamwork's a core value, commonality. This is like a short list, but these are things that when you think about what encompasses your focus, who you are as a person, what things would you pull off this list? And more importantly, just know there isn't a limit of what you pull off of this list. But I would say probably the first three are probably the foundation piece. And as you grow and as those kind of come into existence and you live them consistently, I think other things will come from it. So for instance, if family is a core value, and for many people that it is, then things like compassion and teamwork, might be there. For people who are more work oriented, things like success may be there. Because career is their core value. They focus heavily on their job. So they may find that success is something that's important to them. Teamwork might be important to them. Being patient. So this is just like a short list of things that can fall into what's a core value list. Because some people I don't even know how I would define it outside of family, because that typically tends to be the one that most people kind of jump into. So as we work through the idea of what are your core values, well, let's put some questions on the table that if you don't know what to pull off that list, here's some things that you can start to explore to help you to kind of, so to speak, begin to kind of fill your list out, or maybe expand it. Or you might decide, I'm at a point in my life where my core values maybe have had a shift. It doesn't mean that these values aren't important, but maybe life experiences has changed you a bit. And new things have come to the surface as you discovered more about you that have more value. Let's be honest, the you at 20, the you at 30, the you at 40, and those of us that are knocking on 50, our core values look different over time. And there's nothing wrong. That means it's called evolution. You're evolving, you're maturing. You should always be learning and changing. It doesn't mean everything about you change. It just might be small elements in that getting to the best version of you. Because let's be honest, do you think who you were at 20 could nearly be as successful as you are right now? I mean, I think I had some good skill sets, but it's everything that happened in between that to now that's made me be able to sit here and do this, to have insight. So here are some questions you can start to ask yourself if you want to explore core values. And I always like, if you also have children or young adults you're working with, why not help them to start to have this conversation? Because I would ask you this: how many people had a conversation about core values with you? Most of us kind of just created them on our own. They kind of just came to be in existence. I think part of the world today requires that we start to have salient conversations, just like we have right here at M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition, for growth. We are in a position now that we can give to our younger generations and our future generations tools and resources that many of us never had. And it wasn't because it was a reluctancy to give it, but I always say people teach and learn and love the way they know how. So someone can't hand you a tool if no one handed that tool to them. So we can begin to craft a better world for children, grandchildren, whatever it is, young people in your life, and start to engage them in conversations that no one ever engaged us in. So a question to ask yourself or to propose to them is, who do you admire? You know, you can better understand value, and it can help to kind of turn like real life examples of people who have admirable qualities about them. And, you know, you think of positive role models. We talk about role models, and we kind of loosely say they're important because it's someone you should want to emulate. Not so much emulate as much as respect what they do and say, I like this. Because what I don't want anyone to ever say is, I want to be, this person. I want you to be you. But I want you to look at people you admire and say, now that's a quality that I want to embody as an individual. So when you think about people you admire, you should be asking yourself, what is it about them that you admire, or what inspires you? And what admirable qualities do they have? What behaviors and actions would you like to emulate? So I'm going to go back and just totally be an arse today on the show. So anybody who tells me that they admire Trump, I'm nervous now. Because I want you to answer those questions for me and tell me, what about him inspires you? And I got some answers that I think people can tell me. That he shoots from the hip. And I'll tell you something. He may not be my cup of tea, but the man is authentic. From pillar to post, he has not changed who he is. And I don't care how you feel about him. You got to respect a person who stays true to who they are. Even if you think it's flawed, is all get out. Real talk. So, but what admirable qualities does he have? What behaviors and actions do you think that you should emulate? I'd be curious for people who admire Trump to tell me, what about him would you want to emulate? And would you want your children more so even to emulate him? I think that's interesting, so to speak. Another question that you can put out there, when you think about trying to define your own core values is, what inspires you to take action? See, I'm being distracted right now because I have my live audience is deciding that she wants to get up close and personal and be distracting. So I'm trying not to be distracted. But ask yourself this question: what inspires you to take action? Not just think about it, but what makes you want to be about it? Because people talk a lot of game all the time and don't back it up. I'm all about people who back stuff up. So I'm the kind of person, I'm going to tell you what I think, but I stay true to who I am. So that's why I said I was gone for 4 weeks, because I had to take care of me. And I could never sit in front of you and share things with you about how you should be working on you if God knows I'm not working on me. So what inspires you? Often our core values, they reveal through our actions, not through what we say, because people will tell you and say a lot of things, and you'll say, well, I know that's what they said, but their actions don't align. So we always say a person will tell you that they love you, that you mean the world to them, that the world, the sun rises and sets with you, but yet you don't feel that way. When someone's actions and their words don't align and how you respond to that, that tells you a lot about the nature of the relationship that you're in. So if someone's telling you that they love you, or here's one better, you're telling someone that you love them, but your actions aren't aligning with it, that's a problem. Stop talking and start doing. Because too many people talk and never follow up. And they wonder why key relationships fall apart, whether it's with their children, their significant other, their parents, their siblings, whatever, their work relationships. Because you must be congruent. A part of your best version of yourself is absolutely about that word that we heard mathematically all the time. It's not just shapes that are congruent. We people are congruent as well. Things should match up with you. So just remember that. So what inspires you? So what motivates you to speak up or act? What are you willing to risk in a situation? But more importantly, what results come out of your actions? These are all things that you should be exploring. And the final question to ask yourself is, when do you feel most like yourself? When situations allow you to be authentic, that's a clue that you're aligning with your values, that this situation, isn't compromising you. It's helping you to elevate and be who you want to be. So hence, you don't have to do something because it's what people think you should do. And hence, you often feel isolated, ashamed, or alone because you're not being you. When you start feeling ashamed and alone and isolated, there's something about your ecosystem, emotionally, mentally, socially, that isn't working. And if it isn't working, you need to stop doing it, even if it means you got to cut something loose or put it in timeout or put it in the back burner. Because people have to learn how to be selfish versus selfless, know the difference between the two, and when you're supposed to be utilizing them. So when do you feel most like yourself? Ask yourself that question. Is it who you're with? What feelings are triggered when you're with people or in situations? And what experiences cost you emotionally and physically? Seriously. Often, sometimes, we don't learn a lot about ourselves until we're challenged. In fact, that's when you grow the most. When things are easy breezy, you tend not to grow as much as when the brakes have to be pumped, you hit an obstacle or a roadblock. And for me, that's where I was 4 weeks ago. I've never been so emotionally confused because I was always a person like, I'm Atlas, I can just carry the world. And eventually, guess what? I hit a point where I couldn't carry it anymore. And a lot of feelings came back for that. And that was real for me. And I actually had some really poor moments with people that I care about. But luckily for me, they were good people and said, oh, this is so not you. This is so not Maya. And then I got to work through it and I grew. So remember, it's adversity that's always going to help you to grow and work through things. So when you talk about putting your core values into action, there's a formula I want you to think about. And it's not anything that's going to mathematically mean that you have to carry a number or divide anything. The formula when you talk about your core values is knowing your values plus your action equals your personal integrity. So when you know your values, they direct your actions, and that's when you become the best version of yourself. It's just really that simple of a formula. It isn't rocket science. It isn't like, oh my God, I have to do something, oh my, off the charts to figure this out. It's not. It's just understanding that your core values are your vision. So let's take a core value and let's kind of put it in action. So I can help you say vision, figuring them out, and then putting it in action. So if we were to say, for instance, that, remember the formula, the value plus the action equals your personal integrity, okay? So keep that in mind as we talk about this. So if we were to say that wellness, I'm gonna pick something loose and soft and not too heavy. If we were to say that wellness was a core value, which means your health, like it matters to you. Be honest, it's probably not a core value that you might have at 20, but once you cross over that threshold of 40 and your knees get bad, and you get big in the middle, you hit menopause, and you have hot sweats, guess what? Wellness all of a sudden becomes front and foremost, where clearly it was not there at 20 or even 30. You hit 40, and a lot of things, here's congruency I had probably about 3 years ago. The mental picture of Maya that I had was still that person about 25 or 30. And all of a sudden I had that come to Jesus moment with menopause, and I realized, oh, That person has now kind of evolved into something different, but not bad. For 48, I'm holding together pretty good, so to speak. But I have to proceed to health things differently. There's different priorities health wise than I had. So let's say wellness is your core value. It means you identify it, that's something that's important to you, and you make an active pursuit to have your health become a priority in your life, which means changing maybe your diet. I always say diet's a bad word because we struggle with it. Changing your lifestyle habits from your nutritional perspective. It's all about semantics. It's about words. So you may change the way you eat. I started shifting to being, I knew I wasn't going to be vegan because I happen to like chicken and fish, but I'm more about clean eating, which means I don't do a lot of fast food. I relapse every now and then, but I tend to cook more. I don't really eat prepared things. I'm just more of a clean eater. And just in that shift, that made my life better. So it's about, I'm prioritizing that. So a day-to-day example of wellness could be this. You eat healthy. You work out regularly. It doesn't mean you're in the gym. You're not a gym rat, but you're making sure you get that 30 minutes of activity they talk about in there. And you take care of yourself mentally, because health isn't just physical. Because when you're mentally stressed, guess what? It can manifest itself physically as well, and vice versa. So I also need people, the reason I do my show is because mental wellness should be part of the overall experience that you're having on a daily basis. You know what? If it sits down and you sit on your couch before you go to bed and you kind of just take a deep breath, relax, let your stress roll off you, because we have stressful lives and we have extra stress right now. But that's what a wellness priority or core value would be. So my thing is this: you don't all of a sudden start throwing those things away because you get too busy. How often do we stop doing what we have to do because life all of a sudden gets a bit too hectic? So all of a sudden, and I'll admit it happened to me 3 weeks ago, because when a lot of stuff came crashing down, my time all of a sudden got pulled about 10 different ways. So I wasn't cooking. I was stopping eating fast food, but I was actually trying to buy the healthier things. I hadn't worked out. And I'll tell you something, I felt like crap for those 3 or 4 weeks. This is the best week I feel. And I also realized I had to get back on my menopause medicine because, everything from my mood, irritability, and my sleep was off the charts, because that's part of my mental wellness piece that I kind of threw to the side. So even when life throws a curveball, you have to make sure that you stay on point and don't give up on your core focus, because it's easy for us to take these things and push them to the side and let other things be priority. Stop making other things priority and knowing how to prioritize yourself. And people really struggle with that. People who at their core are compassionate and not selfish struggle with telling somebody, no, I can't, I can't do this for you. I got to go work out. Because I'm going to be like, what? Yeah, I got to go work out. Sorry. It's part of my mental and physical well-being. So that's an example of, putting a core value, into action and sticking with it. I picked a simple one, but I think it makes sense. Now, let's just say you're struggling with the idea of core value. You're like, Maya, that was a long list, and I'm to the point now I don't know if I really know how I feel. Remember I said, when you go to MA.com and you go to the podcast resource section, I always throw some extra things in there for you to do. Don't go because it's not there yet. It never shows up till after the episode. I put a little quiz in there that will help you to kind of figure out, do you know who you really are? It'll ask you a series of questions, and at the end it will say, based on how you answer these questions, these are probably what your core values look like. Now, people often do this stuff and then they kind of get their panties in a bunch. That's not me. I'm gonna tell you something. If you answer the questions honestly and it gives you a different answer, what I say about emotional intelligence, it should be on the table. Don't get upset. Step back and say, well, maybe some things have shifted in my life, and maybe there are some things that are different for me now than maybe when I was married, because now I'm divorced. I'm an empty nester. Maybe some things have shifted for me and my core values look different. It doesn't mean you're different as a person. It means what you might prioritize to get your vision from looks different, because your vision at 85 is not going to be like it is at 45. Real talk. With life changes comes those shifts, and you have to be willing to move with those shifts, so to speak. So if you're struggling with the idea of really kind of nailing what you think they are, go take the quiz and see what happens. Part of the whole thing about core values is how to unleash your truth. That means connecting with your vision. And it's often, it's intentional living. Your truth is intentional living. It means how you live is in line with your values. And when you do that, you will begin to feel a sense of happiness, peace of mind, creativity. So many things will shift for you when you identify your core values, because you will start to live through your lens of truth and not someone else's. And when you live your truth, it feels a little different. You don't feel guilty about doing what you knew was right. And here's a thing that you should always keep in mind is that sometimes you may have to do something for you that maybe doesn't align for everyone else and maybe doesn't benefit everybody else. But here's what to keep in mind when you make big decisions that involve other people and impact you as well. In the decision you make, is it paramount for you emotionally, mentally, financially? I've seen people go into financial ruin trying to salvage somebody else because they were too afraid to say no, knowing it was a bad idea, knowing it wasn't good for them. They jumped into try to be somebody's emotional rescue. See, this is why I'm glad Miriam's here, because I was about to start singing the Rolling Stones. But I'm not going to do it because I'll look bad after she starts singing, so I'm not going to do it. But seriously, they're trying to emotionally rescue somebody else. Have you ever heard someone say trying to rescue a drowning person is hard? Because they're so afraid that they almost pull you under. So sometimes you have to ask yourself, by not doing this, is this the best thing for me? And if it's the best thing for me, is why. And once you make that decision and it's really your truth, don't beat yourself up about it. But have a real conversation with maybe the person that you can't accommodate in the way they want to be accommodated and say, look, I know you asked me for this, but right now, this is where I'm at emotionally. And because this is where I'm at emotionally, I can't do this for you, or I can't do this with you. But this is what I can do. And hopefully that'll be enough. And here's the thing. If they get in their feelings about you saying that I can't overly sacrifice myself just for the good of you, you might want to go back and reevaluate that relationship that you have with that person. Because having real, salient, and honest conversations, which, by the way, are never easy and they tend to hurt, are important. But once you start that dialogue with somebody, you should never be afraid to continue it. Remember, I say it's how you start conversations with people that make a difference. I always say, start with this. I need to talk to you about something that I know is not going to be easy conversation for either one of us, but it's an important conversation to have because this relationship matters to me. I feel like if I don't approach this, if I let it sit where it is, it may get progressively worse and do more damage than necessary. So I hope you'll hear me with an open mind and open heart, because I'm not saying this because I want to hurt you, but this is how I'm feeling right now. But does it mean it's 100% right? No, I may be seeing this entirely wrong, but I still need to have this conversation with you because this is what's going on with me. And you might discover we often do things with not the intention of creating collateral damage. Most people hurt people and they don't always mean to do it, but it still happens. So it's better to be able to have the courage and live your truth and be true with yourself and have the conversation than just keep putting it to the back burner because you're afraid to rock the boat, so to speak. So connecting with your vision is how you begin to unleash that truth. So final thoughts as we're winding down. I'm getting excited. We're about to get close to that, my musical muse and M.A.Y.A, who's going to sing a song that I'm so excited about. We'll talk about that in a bit as well. But my final thought about obviously getting aligned with your core values is that never be afraid to live intentionally, like I said. Because when you live with your values, you begin to increase your happiness, your peace of mind, your creativity, and then hence you live in your truth. You begin to live your best life. You get to that best version of yourself. Because when you identify your core values, it goes beyond just checking a box. Because remember, it's not just talking about it, it's about being about it. And that's the part that is so, so important in this process, is being willing to embrace the fact that you may be struggling with something, you may be compromising something, but I'm gonna tell you something, when it comes to your core values, the minute you decide you're going to sacrifice them or you're going to compromise them, I need to ask yourself, why am I doing it? If what I'm doing it, am I taking a risk that's calculated, that makes sense, that the outcome of it is worth it? Remember I said that compass we talked about? So if it's too left and you feel ashamed, alone, and isolated, it can't be worth doing. But if it's a little bit to the right and it's not exactly something that aligns with your core values, but it's not awful, it's maybe a little uncomfortable, but you can see the benefit of pushing a boundary and growing, coming out of your comfort zone, then that's a growth point. And you may all of a sudden discover a new core value. So that's it for episode 16. The key to getting to the best version of yourself. Hint, it's your core values. Prioritizing yourself, not being afraid to say, this is for me. And for a moment, I might have to be selfless, but say I'm going to be selfish and it's all okay. Remember, you can find all former episodes of M.A.Y.A at MAYAKai.com. Of course, if you happen to have a podcast platform of choice, then so be it. You can always go to iTunes, Google, iHeartRadio, and now you can also find me on Amazon Audibles as well. Remember, with every podcast, and specifically this one, there will be a resource. You can go take the quiz if you want to explore your core values. Just go to mayakai.com. And of course, you can go to the podcast resource section, episode 16, and take the quiz and see what you think you align with. Do you? It's kind of like maybe a little temperature check. All right, with that being said, I'm excited. Let's get to my new segment of the show, my musical muse. Let's bring her back on, M.A.Y.A. I know I had to torture you for 40 minutes of me running my mouth.
That's not even torture. That's torture. The torture's great.
So Miriam, let's talk a bit about part of what we're doing in this segment is kind of sharing what I feel music is therapeutic. Sometimes you ever hear a song and you're like, man, this aligns with me. Songs, sometimes they speak to our souls. They speak to our situations. Let me ask you this about core values. In today's music industry, there's not a lot of what I think are authentic artists. When I think about authentic, I think about John Legend and Alicia Keys. I'm old school. So back when I was growing up, everybody was writing and playing music. But now it's like a sample, somebody else is writing. The talent is there. Do you feel, what are your core values to keep your musical creativity unique to who you are as Miriam McQueen?
That's a good question. Like, I was sitting here while you were talking about core values, and I was like, I need to take that quiz. Because I'm like reflecting. I'm like, what are my core values? And yeah, I was shocked with everything you were saying, like ambition, intelligence, and like I wasn't expecting that to be an option, Like my immediate was like family or like religion and stuff like that. But for me, I would say, can music be a core value? Like, that's
why
my
not?
question.
Why can't it be? Because it could fall under that umbrella of like creativity.
Yes. So I would say
creativity, industrialness. It's a flow. So yes, your music could be your core value. You feel at the essence of a core value is at the essence of who you are. It resonates with you.
Yeah, I would say my music, my creativity, if I'm not doing it, I'm not functioning well as a human. Like if I'm doing something else, it doesn't sit right.
When did you realize that music was the thing for you that was like kind of your value, therapeutic? It was part of your identity.
I would say maybe middle school, I started really trying to like start writing songs because I would hear music and I was like, I think I can do that. Like I feel those words. And so I would try to make my own. And it was just, poems, but turning them into music. And that was, I think, when I realized that, I mean, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't doing my homework. I wasn't doing like math and all that stuff wasn't my stuff. And I would just come home and I would play on the piano or the guitar and it felt right. I was like, that's it.
When it feels right, that's when you know you're aligning with your truth. So
I was like,
what song?
I'm stuck.
What song are we performing? I'm so excited the song that you picked to kind of align with today's kind of topic.
It's called Need Myself. I wrote it a few years ago. And I mean, it's the title, Need Myself. That's it. That's the song. And
all right.
I hope everybody enjoys it and I hope that they can relate,
I know they will. So without further ado, I'm going to give you the stage. Everyone, meet Miriam McQueen, my musical muse, performing for you her very own Need Myself. Here we go. Take it away, Miriam.
All right. Picking out all the M&Ms out of my trail mix. Gum stuck on pages on which lyrics should exist. Guitar comes from 1986. His lipstick, I rock the hell out of it. Tight jeans, damn, they barely fit. Bruce Springsteen's rocking on my shirt. This boy won't text back, it doesn't hurt. Because he's a boy, he ain't no man. Baby, I need myself. Cause I can't trust nobody, grandma, anybody else. Baby, I need myself. Cause I can't trust nobody, grandma, anybody else. Indents from the strings on my guitar on my fingers. Sitting down in this chair, 'cause my feet hurt. I keep on working 9 to 5. 16, yeah, no, I'm doing it right. 17, trying to figure out my life. Now I'm 18, and maybe when you'll see me, I'll be on the big screen, and he'll see me too. The boy that didn't text me back sucks to be you, 'cause baby, I need myself. 'Cause I can't trust nobody, grandma, anybody else. Baby, I need myself. 'Cause I can't trust nobody, grandma, anybody else. When I fall off, pick myself up. When life gets tough, I'll rollinate and get myself out. 'Cause baby, I need myself. 'Cause I can't trust nobody, grandma, anybody else. Baby, I need myself. 'Cause I can't trust nobody, grandma, anybody else.
Whoa! Oh my God! Well, okay. That was amazing. Okay, that aligns exactly with core values.
Yeah.
A big part of truth is needing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I love the fact that you picked that, because that just hits home about, hey, we need people to lean into, but the first person you need to be able to lean into is yourself.
Yeah. And when you were telling me about the episode, it's the first song that came to mind, and it honestly got me really excited. I was like, perfect. This is what people need to hear. Perfect.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
So that's an original piece you wrote yourself.
Yes.
What are some of your other like musical influences? Like, you know, kind of, because I know we'll do some covers here and there, but what are some of the artists that inspire you and that you like?
So I'm big on female artists. I obviously love male artists too, but like female inspiration is a huge thing for me. And like you were saying, like you look at a person and you're like, I want to not be them, but I want to be where they're at in a way. Like with Alicia Keys, you mentioned Alicia Keys. She's one of my number one inspirations, and Lady Gaga. I like how she's not afraid to just go above and beyond and just be her true self. And let's see, Sarah Bareilles.
It's funny you say that, because I was like, when you were singing, I'm like, you know, she kind of reminds me a little of Sarah Bareilles.
Yeah.
So,
oh, that's
thank
you.
No, it is. I mean, no, really. I was like, she kind of reminds me a little bit of her, but yeah, but still, I mean, a different side of the music, but there was something about your energy and kind of how the song was written that made me think of her. So yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. I actually wrote this song when she was a bigger influence right now, because like with my music, it's ever changing, ebb and flows. Like I get inspiration from something, I'll write a song that's like R&B, pop. I'll add some different like electronic stuff, and I just like to play around with it. I like to have fun with it. So with this one, it was definitely Sarah B inspired.
So was it inspired based on a situation that kind of gave you the, you know, kind of the content, or was it an experience that kind of?
Absolutely. yeah, there was I was, talking to somebody and they, got flaky, didn't want to talk to me back. And I was, like you were saying, you are generous and you want to, help somebody out and like be a part of their lives in a good way, but
Mhm.
then they're taking all your energy out and you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I wasting my time on you? So I had that moment. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna write a song. So I wrote a song and that's what ended up.
Great therapy. I wish I had
Yeah.
that talent because I'd probably have a
It's
catalog
very,
of songs I've written if I could do that. I'm just gonna tell you
yeah.
that.
It's very releasing, I can tell you that. It's like
Wonderful.
done.
So where can people find, you? I mean, I know I got it scrolling there. Obviously, they can find you on
Yeah.
Instagram at Miriam McQueen. Your
Instagram.
website is there as well.
Yes.
And are you on YouTube as well?
I am. I'm on YouTube. You can find my music on Spotify or iTunes. A lot of music platforms. Those are just the main ones, but just Miriam McQueen. It's just me. So you'll
I'm
find me.
telling you, you already have a famous name. When Sean brought your name up, I said, "Wait a minute, don't I know her? Isn't
Yeah.
she?" I'm thinking, "Isn't she famous already? Haven't I this person?"
Yes, ma'am. Speak it into existence.
That's how it works. You speak it into
Hmm.
existence so that it can absolutely happen. So, yes,
Absolutely.
wonderful, great song. I can't even
Thank
see
you.
now. I'm feeling inspired.
You're
See,
amped up. You're like, let's go another hour.
I'm, I'm excited. I'm like, what am I going to talk about next week?
Yeah. Ooh,
So now I can
gonna
get
be good.
something. Yeah, right. So now I'm already thinking about it. A
Yeah.
motivation, because this is very motivating for me. It's like finding. I,
Yeah.
I have this element that I've always wanted to have in the show, but I just didn't want to play a song. I mean, you know what I mean. You can
Yeah.
do that, but I wanted to
Yeah.
do something more. So again,
More
Miriam is.
intimate.
Yes, it's more
Mhm.
intimate. So thank you for joining the show. Obviously, we will
Thank
see you
you.
in the next episode. I'm
Next
trying to be
week.
challenging. Like, what can I give her
Yes.
to think about?
Might have to just write one on the spot.
Oh, wow, that even impromptu music.
An
That's even.
impromptu? Oh, that would be bad. That would not be good.
I don't know. Maybe not. Some people just have that ability, and you strike me as being
That's
that
true.
person that has that ability.
Guess we could find out.
There you go. All right, everybody. So,
Thank
Miriam, until
you.
next week, we'll see you then. Okay,
Bye.
alrighty. Bye bye. All right, everybody. That is Miriam McQueen. She is now my new musical muse for the show. So, that's just one small tidbit. Go check her out. Like I said, you can follow her on the fact her name is just Miriam McQueen. So, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, you can follow her that way. Check out her music. A lot of her original stuff. I want to say the song I Fell in Love, I think it's called Time. Love it. Video too. She's got some videos. I'm going to tell you something that's going to age me as we're winding down the show. As I was like researching her stuff, because my friend Sean brought her to my attention, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Everything happens for a reason. Um, and I was listening to her sing The Rainbow Connection. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. That is such a beautiful song to me. And yes, Kermit the Frog did sing it. So for it to be more moving to you, go listen to Miriam's version of it. It's even better because it's a good reflection of life. And I think right now, people could use a little bit of that along with some Sesame Street, real talk, in their life right about now. We need to get back to simpler times because we're being challenged in ways that people are really struggling. So I would encourage you, the thing that really just got me like her stuff's all good, but that song for some reason just was nostalgic and took me back to a good place, The Rainbow Connection. So go check out Mary McQueen. That's her website. Her stuff is there. Learn more about who she is. She's now officially part of M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition. She is our musical muse. It's little intros with her performing for us to add another layer of introspection and relaxation to the show after you listen to me jabber for like 45 minutes. I'll let you go with something good. All right, everybody, remember, you can always listen to past episodes of M.A.Y.A at mayakai.com. Remember, go to the podcast resource section because there's going to be the quiz you can take to explore if you really know what your core values are, or maybe discover your core values as well. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel as well, Maya Kai. Of course, you've been getting social with me because if you're following me on Twitter or Instagram, it's Maya_Kai. And of course, if you're watching on Facebook, it's Maya Kai Presents. Remember, you can also find episodes of Maya if you have a podcast platform preference. I get it. Some people like their stuff. You can find them on iTunes, Google, and iHeartRadio, that podcast platforms. And now on Amazon Audible, just search Maya, M.A.Y, My Ambition, and boom, it pops up in their podcast section. And thank you for everyone for joining the show. I appreciate you kind of tuning in and being part of something that for me is going to be make the journey more enriched, because now we've added music to it. It's good stuff. All right, everybody, that is it for me. Until next week, I'll see you next Thursday at 2 o'clock. I'll be consistent. I will be back, and I will not be missing any shows, everybody. That's it for me. Enjoy the rest of your week. And remember, one of the things I always say until next time, remember, your present becomes your past, and your future is no more. So live every day to the fullest.
Get inspired, get motivated with M.A.Y.A and the M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition podcast.
Something that I take pride in is trying to be forward thinking, thinking outside the box, challenging myself. And as I challenge myself, hopefully I challenge you.
Find M.A.Y.A on Twitter and Instagram at M.A.Y.A_Akai. On Facebook at M.A.Y.A Akai Presents.
We're going to talk health, wealth, fitness, mental health, financial, lots of different things that can empower you as you seek out the ambition that you're pursuing.
Or get everything M.A.Y.A at M.A.Y.A Akai.com.